We have this historic ticket, an African-American, Asian-American woman running as the vice presidential nominee. Never happened before. Is that alone enough to be able to excite that Democratic base? Because she's not the top of the ticket, she's second on the ticket. And does the VP candidate really make that much of a difference to the average voter based upon what you've seen in history?
Every time a presidential candidate is making that VP pick, there's so much swirl about it. There's so much hand-wringing by many. But at the end of the day, voters aren't voting for number two, right? They're voting for the top of the ticket. This year may be different in a couple of different ways. One, and this would hold true if Kamala Harris was the pick or not, but I think that this is arguably the most consequential vice presidential pick in history, and certainly modern history, because the chances that Joe Biden serves 2 terms are pretty low. He's not come out and said formally that he's only going to be a 1-termer, but
because of his age.
Because of his age, that seems to be an assumption that people are making, and I think that's a fair assumption. So from the start, if Kamala Harris is vice president in January of 2021, she's automatically the front runner for the Democratic nomination in 2024. Should then President Biden step away? And I also think the point about spurring Democratic turnout, especially among the African-American community, is a good one. I think that it's really more about maintaining that level of excitement among the Democratic Party base rather than trying to, because I think it's there, right? I think Democrats have been chomping at the bit for 4 years to get to 2020.
The fact that Kamala Harris checks a lot of different boxes: historically black college graduate, African-American sorority, Links Incorporated. I mean, these are huge organizations with highly educated people. Do those folks galvanize like we've never seen them before, or is that just a lot of lip service?
Well, they very well could, right? But let's let's look at history, and African-American voters align with Democratic presidential candidates in huge numbers generally, right? I mean, and of those that turn out, Democratic presidential candidates usually get 93, 94% of African-American voters, African-American women to be specific. And, you know, the key for the Biden-Harris campaign is going to be to keep those numbers where they are. And if they identify their voters and communicate with them and turn them out, they can do it.
Women, regardless if they're African Americans, Latinos, Native Americans, Asians, Caucasians, white women, I believe, based on all that that I know, are very excited about the possibility of a woman being vice president of the United States, who could in turn be the next president of the United States. That is, I really think that African American women really pushed, fought, and are really on board and ready to kick up their heels and make a difference. We have been there for the Democratic Party, and that we were going to make sure that our voices were heard. No longer were we going to just cook and fry the chicken. We were going to also make sure that we were a part of the dinner that people sit down to every single day, political dinner. And that was not an option that we were accepting. Not to say that Whitmer was not qualified. It wasn't even about her.
You felt that Governor Whitmer was qualified, but it just wasn't her time?
Well, I would say that she was qualified, but I don't think it was about her at all for African-American women or people of color. It was not even a concern. I think that the procedure and the process included Governor Whitmer in the discussion. I think that she was shined and has shined in Michigan as it relates to protecting the citizens here. But this truly, the decision about who should be vice president was about Biden making the right decision, and African-American women, black women, knew that it was a black woman who was more than qualified, not only Harris, but the others that were there, more than qualified to be his running mate.
Vice presidential nominee Pence, First of all, does he remain on the ticket if the polls start showing that this race is super duper close and Donald Trump's in real trouble, or becomes a huge margin? Or is it too late to get him off the ticket, and would that be disaster within the GOP for Donald Trump?
Well, I think there's a couple different things that would argue against Pence not being on the ticket. One is the nomination, right? He's been nominated by his party. That's an official party position now. He would, and of course, that's an internal party decision. The Republicans could do whatever they wanted. But I think that would be a tougher thing to do. We also have to remember why Pence was picked in the first place. You know, he's got great ties to Capitol Hill. He's got great ties to the evangelical community. Mm-hmm. If those things go away, you know, those are net minuses if Pence is not on the ticket. Trump needs those evangelical voters, and if he's going to be, he probably needs less of a tie to Capitol Hill in a second term than he would the first. But it's really about the voters that Pence can make more comfortable with casting a ballot for Trump, and I think a lot of those are evangelicals.
Do you think it's likely that women as a gender group may play a bigger role in this race for the White House than any other group? And I'm not just talking about African-American women.
Generally, based on exit polling, we know that female voters make up a greater portion of the electorate than men do. 52, 53% usually on election day are women. So that automatically makes them, the biggest, one of the biggest groups that's going to, have their will, have their choice make a big difference. So, but let's go back to 2016, right? There was all sorts of discussion, all sorts of theories about how women would simply abandon Donald Trump because of the statements that he made about women, maybe some of his past history with women, some of his actions toward women, but white women did not in many numbers, right? 46% of white women voted for Trump, and that really helped him get over the top in terms of, especially in places like Michigan. So, but there's also no question that he lost many of those women. Usually, and I would put the moniker suburban, well-educated suburban women on that. Lost many of those in the 2018 midterms when they turned out to vote for candidates like Gretchen Whitmer, Jocelyn Benson, Dana Nessel, Alyssa Slotkin, Haley Stevens, right? So a trick for the Trump campaign is going to be try to get those women that voted for him in 16 back into their camp in 20.
Up next, the key Michigan races to watch, and if race, that elephant in the room, will influence the outcome.